Welcome, fellow carnivores. 3.5 years. What's changed? A lot more than I thought. Welcome to my channel. My name is Chad. I've been doing this carnivore diet for over 3.5 years. Lost over 100 pounds, experienced incredible improvements to my health and well-being, and I'm excited to share my experiences with you in hopes that they help you on your journey, and I'd love to hear your stories as well. All right, well, let's go. A quick note. Most things happen gradual. Like if I say quitting spices in this first 6 months or the 1 year mark, it might be more like months 5 through 7. Few constants. Eat when hungry and stop when satiated. Now, my preference is OMAD or 1 meal a day, and occasionally having 2 if I'm truly hungry, although it's rare. I prefer dry brining my meat. If you haven't done it, look it up. To me, it's a game changer. 1 day for most cuts and 2 days for really thick cuts like chuck steak. I do eat fish, primarily salmon. I try to do it weekly, but I keep forgetting it's there. A variety of salts. Maldon is my favorite, and I like a lot of smoked salts. My main cooking tools are a grill, carbon steel pans from De Bouillet. I just prefer them over cast iron, Instant Pot, and sous vide. And that's really it. I've tried grass-fed meat. I haven't really noticed a significant difference in how I feel, and it's not always within my budget, so Costco and Sam's Club are my go-to. I do want to try grass-fed again soon. Now, the first 6 months, besides water, I did drink sparkling mineral water that was flavored, just the Kirkland kind. I don't like sweeteners. How much I ate each day varied quite a bit, anywhere from 3/4 pound to 3 pounds, and there was no pattern. Now, that big variance slowly decreased up toward the end of month 6, though, but it was really all over the place. Now, I mainly ate ribeye with a lot of extra butter in the beginning. I also included chicken thighs, pork, Kahlua pig, ribs, bacon, cheeseburgers, New York strips, tri-tips, so many other cuts. Butter consumption was about 3+ ounces daily, and I was still drinking espresso, 3 triple shots a day with cream, sometimes 4. Now, the treats. I do think this is something that if I could go back in time, I would change. Pork rinds, including smashing them up and making chaffles of all different kinds, sour cream, cheese, other things. Snacking on while I was making dinner, having some after dinner rather than just topping up and being done. I'm okay with people doing spices if they really need to, but again, I do say test and get away from it if you can. Now, the other thing I'd like to do is make a lot of sauces with the pan drippings. I'd make cream and I'd make a hollandaise sauce and I would make egg benedicts with the chaffles. I was doing what I think we should not be doing, is just changing one food with the other rather than changing how we think about food and our outlook on food. But hey, if it helps you get through that first 3 months of carnivore, like it did me, I'd say lean on them, use them, but get away from those habits. Out with the old, in with the new. I do think just beef, salt, and drinking water is best, but not everybody wants to do that. Again, find your path. Enjoy the journey. So some 6-month milestones. Chicken became useless. It became empty. And when I look back, I spent a lot of time preparing a lot of things that didn't help my health. Months 6 through 12, I realized that those habits needed changing. So I moved away from making these elaborate sauces and all these fancy snacks that took so much time in preparation. I still was having like a small bowl of pork rinds as a snack, usually with my meal or just as I was grilling. I started cutting back on spices as a conscious decision. Now, my eating habits were starting to get better, but they would still vary from day to day on how much I was eating. I don't think it was this big 3/4 to 3 pound, but there was still quite a bit of shift, like anywhere from a pound to maybe 2.5 pounds happening. And I think there's definitely a relationship with how much we have to lose and how our body is burning that off. Because the closer I got to my optimum weight, the narrower that kind of margin of what I was basically satiated for changed. Now, my butter around this time was still about 2 to 3 ounces, but it really started becoming a more on how I felt basis, and it wasn't always daily. Now, my allergies were still bad. I was still eating a lot of eggs, and I always had itchy skin, which I would soon find out was the egg whites. As I got close to my optimum weight, I found it was much easier to gauge how much I wanted to eat that day. So I know I could take out a steak and some pork, and I would almost start hitting it dead on. It made the OMAD thing real easy, and the topping up, I had to do a little less. Now, I still had some days when I was a touch hungry toward the evening, and I'd push through, But if I was truly hungry, again, I'd reach into that refrigerator, soft-boiled eggs ready to go, crack, peel, eat. That is a great tip. Now, at year 1 closing, pork became dead like chicken. I can still eat it, but it has to be with red meat. Can't be a meal on itself or I just don't feel good. I was down to my 178 pounds that I maintain today, 2.5 years later. And I never thought that was possible. Again, my goal was just to be under 200. By this time, my eating habits were getting very stable. I was usually hungry 8 hours after I'd wake up, but I could go for 14 with no issues. And that's true today. And that hunger is interesting. These days, I like to say I feel like a lion on a hunt. Like I have this energy to go get my food and wait for it if I need to. Before, it was more like in the movie, more porridge, please. And if you didn't get it, you're going to fall down and pass out. And it becomes this all-consuming thing of like, oh, I've got to eat. What is there to eat? And then that's when you start the binging. So that was a radical change. Now, I did quit eggs. No more itchy skin. I test them every 6 months. I still can't do them for more than maybe 5 days. I want to sidetrack this for a second. Going into my second year, it was January, and I was freezing cold. I upped my butter to about 4 ounces a day and felt a little better, but I was definitely cold most of the time. Now, it went away my second and third year, so I'm just going to chalk this up to not having 100 pounds of insulation on me, and I just wasn't used to it. When I look back at my life on Maui, I would get freezing cold when it was just 60 degrees, and I was the same weight, 178 back then. Anyway, back on point. So I was eating more now, and it was very consistent around 2 pounds. There was very little variation, and I was eating a lot more chuck steak because the cost is reasonable, and I like it, and it's got a great fat content. I really cut back on the snacks, pork rinds, etc., and soon enough they would all be gone. Getting closer to the end of year 2, I quit caring if I had various other cuts of meat. I might get New York if it's on sale, but it's got to look really good and be really cheap. Otherwise, I'm really fine with just ribeye, chuck, and some flat meat that my boy loves. Now, I might do bacon every few months and have a few pieces because, again, the family likes it. Pork, rarely, maybe every 2 to 3 months when it's on sale. My daughter likes it, my wife likes it, so it'll get eaten up, and I might have a bite or two or even one when I cook it. Now, butter is rarely on steaks at this 2-year mark. I mean, I might have 2 to 3 ounces at a day just kind of as to top up, but it's really become a very situational thing. The huge one is I quit coffee the end of my second year. I tried various times before and the typical withdrawals, headaches, and I never noticed a difference in how I feel. But somehow this 2-year mark, I just quit and there was no withdrawals, no headaches, and it was wild. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to quit. I'm saying everybody should try to quit at the 1-year mark, 2-year mark, and 3-year mark and see if they get these gains I did. Incredible sleep, incredibly easy to wake up, even more focus, which I didn't think was possible, and even better recovery from working hard, riding the bike. Again, just another huge, huge change at that 2-year mark for me. So I'm going to jump all the way up to now, 3.5+ years in. First off, butter in the last 6 months, I'd radically cut back, and I've recently stopped. Not sure if I'm going to start back up because I've really been okay without it, and I don't miss it. Still mainly ribeye and chuck steak, once in a while flap that my boy has, and it's usually just a bite or two of his. I might get prosciutto twice a year. I like it for my birthday, and I like it for Christmas. It's just kind of a fun treat. And I also like it because it's just pork and salt. It's that simple. Now, the coffee thing, again, I've quit, but every about 6 months I have a sip of my wife's cold brew. Yeah, I understand the taste is there, but it's nothing I desire. I'm just curious to see what my body thinks of it as far as like the mental taste of it. Now, I do love Italian sparkling mineral water like Pellegrino or the Kirkland coffee, and I really do love having like maybe a bottle a day. These days, it's really just salt and meat. Now, one note, I'm testing cheese again for my no gallbladder issue, and it's working to keep me OMAD with no issues. But I need to test it more and decide if the downsides are worth it. So that's going to be determined. So as I enter my 4th year, the only things I really want to change are I want to get a smoker for doing chuck, and I want to up my ribeye intake. If this cheese experiment I'm doing fails, most likely it's out. In conclusion, my journey through this carnivore diet over the 3.5 years has involved continuous adjustments, And it's really just gotten more simple each year. I hope you found this helpful, and if you did, please hit that subscribe button, like button, and leave a comment below. I'd love to hear your story. Stay carnivorous, my friends, and the hui ho.